Beginning of the Parsha, it talks about that Rebecca was pregnant, and she had potentially the two children, twins in her stomach. The pasuk says, the verse says like this: and they were running the children within her, which means that the fetuses in her stomach, in her womb, were moving about. And she says, why is this for me? And she goes to ask the question, what is going on? So Rashi brings down, in the name of the Medrash, Rashi writes that what does it mean, but that the children were moving about in her womb? Rashi says that every time that they were arguing, they were arguing about the nachla, the inheritance of the two worlds. This is what the Medrash writes. The Medrash Yalkut, and Rashi brings it down, which means that there was an argument. We know that these two twins in the stomach will be Yaakov and Esav. What was the argument? The argument was, one wanted Olam Hazeh, the physical world, which we'll see later with Esav, becomes very connected to the material and the physical realm. And Yaakov wanted the spiritual world, which is called Olam Haba, the world to come. So the obvious question is, so what's the argument? What are they arguing about? One wants one world, and the other wants the other world. One wants the physical reality, and one wants the spiritual reality. So what are these twins, Jacob and Esau, Yaakov and Esau, what are they arguing about? And it says that they were arguing. Then it says that she's told, Shnei goy b'bitnech, that the truth is that these are two separate nations. It's not only these two twins will become part of one nation, but these two twins will actually become divided into two separate nations. And then her pregnancy comes to full term, till a full 9 months, like Rashi brings down. And the first one comes out, Kula Kader Ser, completely covered in hair. Vayikra Shmai Esav, and they call his name, everybody calls him. Vayikra, his name is called by everybody. Hakol Kara Loiken, everyone calls him this. They called him Esav. Why the word Esav? Because Esav comes from the word Asui. Asui means that he was completed. He was completely formed. Asui Esav is spelled Ayin Sin Vav. Asui, which means completed, done, finished, is Ayin Sin Vav Yud. So in the name of Esav, there's a missing Yud. Why the missing Yud? If he is named Esav, because he represents someone that left the womb in a complete state, fully formed, full of hair, or like the Targum Yonasim Nazil writes, that B'seir Reisha v'dikna v'shenin, he came out fully like a developed person, full of his head hair, even a beard, and his teeth were complete, which means that he was done. The metaphysical, spiritual aspect of this idea is that he represents some type of completion. If he represents completion or fullness, and Esav also comes from the word asiya, physicality, or doing, why is his name not Asui, with Ayin Sin Vav Yud? If he's called Asui, if he's Asui, then his name should be Esav. Asui, why Esav without the Yud? Then it says that the next child, afterwards the next child comes out. His brother comes out. V'yadoi achezes be'ekav Esav, and his hand is holding on to the heel of Esav. Vayikra Shmoi. So Hashem calls him, or he's been called, according to the Medrash, Yaakov. He's called Yaakov, Jacob. Because he's holding on to the heel of his older brother that's birthed first, he's called Yaakov. And the question is obvious also. If he's holding on to the heel of Esau, then his name should be Ekev. Ekev means a heel. So since he's holding on to the heel, they call him by what he's doing. And what is he doing when he's leaving the womb? He's holding on to his brother's heel, so call him Ekev. So Zohar says, and it's brought down also in Medrash, the Zohar says that Yaakov takes the Yud from Esav. In other words, Esav should really have a Yud in his name. His name should be Asui. Ayin, Sin, Vav, Yud. His name is only Esav without the Yud. Yaakov's name should have been Ekev, Ayin, Kuf, Vez without the Yud. And Yaakov takes the Yud from Esav and puts it into his name, so now his name is Yaakov instead of Ekev, and Esav's name is Esav instead of Asui. Now obviously this is there's some depth to this idea, that somehow Yaakov is connected to the letter Yud, and Esav is the absence of Yud. So let's hold this thought a second. What does Esav turn out to be? Who's Esav, the person? Who's he turn out to be? So the next episode is that they grow older, and Esav becomes a hunter. And he says he comes very hungry from his hunt, hungry and tired, and he sees that his brother Yaakov is cooking some lentils, and he says, give me some of those lentils. Haliteni means fill me up, pour down my throat. This open my mouth. I'll open my mouth and just pour down this stew down my mouth because I'm tired. What does Yaakov say? Yaakov responds in verse 31. Yaakov, Michi chayoim is bechor choli. Sell me like this day your bechor. Your bechor means your ability or your privilege of being the firstborn. So Esav was born first. Yaakov was born second, right? He's born holding the heel of Esav. Yaakov says, if you want some of these lentils, sell me your bechor. Make me that I will take your place of the privilege of being a bechor, the firstborn. Now, what does this mean, bechor? What does it actually mean, a bechor at those times? This is talking about pre-Matan Torah, before the giving of the Torah. So there were no one servicing in the temple. There was no temple. There was no Mishkan, which was the service of Bechorim. So this Bechor means, and it's not Davar Shel B'Olam, it's not something that didn't come into this world, because Bechor over here means the privilege of being the first one. The first one in the family, people give respect, people give honor. I want that honor. That's what Yaakov asked for. But the way he asked for this is very strange. He says, Michri kayoim es bechor chali. Sell me like the day. Sell me like the day your bechor. What does like the day mean? So Rashi says, just like the day is clear, same thing also, let's do a clean contract and sell me completely this privilege. But still strange. It could be Michri, it could say, sell me like clarity, this bechor, or sell me with truth, this bechor. What is ka'ayoim, like the day? And what is Esav's response? Esav's response is, Esav says, I'm going to die anyways. So what do I need is bechor? Bechor is some maybe for the future. Shavayda bechor will be in the future. The service of the bechor will be in the future time. He says, I'm going to die anyways. So we have a structure where one is talking about the day. Michi kayim, sell me like the day. And his response is tomorrow. I'm going to die tomorrow. I'm moving to a future of death. So we have the present and the future. The present is Yaakov is telling me, sell me the present. Sell me the bechor in this present moment. And Esav says, if I'm going to think about the future, I might as well sell you now this bechor, this privilege. What does this mean? This means like this, that there are two paradigms here. There's Yaakov and Esav. They represent two separate paradigms. One is the paradigm of Olam Haba, and one is the paradigm of Olam Haza, the world to come and the present world, the physical world and the spiritual world. The physical world represents the way things are, the way it is. The table is a table, the chair is a chair, not a state of becoming, but actually the state of being, what the thing is actually is. In the physical realm, things are in a state of done. In the present tense, things are in the state of being, of completely formed. Esav represents Olam Haza, the physical world, Esav's name comes from the word asui. Asui means it's already formed. It's already reached its completion. So the way Chazal, the way our sages talk about this is that he's born, with teeth, and he's born with a beard. It means whatever he could become, he's already. This is a certain paradigm of living in the immediacy, living in the present moment, in the immediacy of the moment, without any hint or indication that there's a mystery, that there's something deeper, there's something more alive. It's almost like the deadness of the moment. It just is. When Esav finally sells this gift, this privilege to his brother, it says, Vayochel, he eats, Vayesht, he drinks, Vayakim, he gets up, Vayelach, he walks, Vayivaz, and he embarrasses, or he does away with the Bechor. So Vayochel, Vayesht, Vayakim, Vayelach, he eats, he drinks, he gets up, he walks. If you're just familiar with a little bit in Hebrew, or even the way you say it in English, it's not like he ate and then he also drank, then he got up and then he walked away. It's he ate, he drank, he got up and he walked. There's no prose. There's no poetry. It's just matter of fact. It's giving a description of what he did. Esav is a man that's living in the total present moment. Not in a good way, not in the moment, but for the moment. For this immediate moment. What does this moment have for me right now? He can eat, I eat. He can drink, he drinks. This is why he's a hunter. Being a hunter is someone that has to live in this constant state of alertness. Because one moment they're not alert in what is happening right now, in this moment, and for this moment, and they'll be attacked. So this idea of living in the very for the moment is an Esav quality. This is why Esav's name means asui. Asui means it's complete. It's done already. I'm already formed. Everything that I want to know, I already know. Everything that I want to be, I am already. This is a certain type of klipa. This is olam haza. This is the physical world. What is the spiritual world? The spiritual world is teeming with life, with movement, with possibility. It's olam haba, the world to come. It's not. I'm not saying it is, but it's becoming. It's the world of becoming. When the struggle between Esav and Yaakov in the womb, between olam haza, this physical world, and the spiritual world, it wasn't just a struggle. Esav said, "I want olam haza," and Yaakov says, "I want olam haba." Esav says, "I want the physical," and Yaakov says, "I want the spiritual." Because if that's the argument, then there's no argument. Each one wants what they want, and they're separate. But Esav wanted olam haza predominantly, and in olam haza he wanted the olam haba of olam haza. I'll explain what that means in a moment. And Yaakov wanted the olam haba, and in the olam haba, in the future world, he wanted also the present, the physicality. What Esav wanted was that he should be in a state that he's very connected to the material, to the physical realm, for the immediacy of this moment, with the awareness that every single thing that's happening in this present moment, in the physicality of this present moment, is connected to divine animating force that's constantly renewing it at every moment. The depth of the olam haza, of the immediacy of the moment, is the olam haba, is the world to come, that exists within the olam haza. In the depth of the physical reality is the spiritual quality of aliveness and of vibrancy and of potential, and of the divine life force, of the chiyas alaki, the divine life force. Esav wanted olam haza predominantly. He wanted the physical reality with a sense of the olam haba within that olam haza. What did Yaakov want? Yaakov wanted the opposite. Yaakov wanted to have the spiritual realm, to live in the world of olam haba, and in that world of olam haba to also concretize the spirituality, to bring it down into the physical realm. So they were wanted both in the womb. Yaakov wanted olam haba and to anchor it in olam haza, in the physical reality. Esav wanted olam haza and to have the connection to the spirituality, which is the olam haba. But when he's born, Esav is born, it says he's potentially should have been called Asoi with the Yud, but the Yud was stolen, or the Yud was taken away and given to Yaakov. What is the Yud? What does the Yud do? When you place a Yud in the beginning of a letter, beginning of a word, let's say Asa, like we use the word Esav. Asa means to form, to make, to create. Ya'asa, if you add the yud to the word asa, lakacha ya'asa, this is the way he will make. It means that it's a continuous act. It's not just someone just makes something, but they're continuously making. It's a process. The spirituality in the physical realm is the yud. The yud is the element that gives the quality of Olam Haza, of the physical world, a dimension of spirituality, because it's an awareness that everything that we have in this present moment is connected to something that's vibrant and alive and is being recreated at every moment. So Esav, in another parable, and this is what Yaakov speaks to Esav about, selling me the Bechor like the day. What does it mean to sell me the firstborn like the day? So the Zohar says that Esav corresponds to the day, and Yaakov corresponds to the night. Esav is connected to the sun, and Yaakov is connected to the moon. Yisrael Daimon Levana. Israel is like the moon. The sun reality is what is. It's observable. It's predictable, and it's observable. It is what it is. The shemesh, the word shemesh, which is sun, is sham mush. That there is something tangible. It is what it is. The table is a table, the chair is a chair. Everything is just what it is. What is the idea of Levana, the moon, or connected to the night? The night is the possibility, the change, the transformation, the possibility of something different. Esav is potentially, the way he was conceived, he was potentially just as great a tzaddik as Yaakov, potentially. His avodah, his service, his way of connecting would have been to connect to the physical realm, to be asui, to be a complete physical being, a fully formed physical person, but with the yud would have made the consciousness of the constant renewal of his creation. He's connected to the physical reality, and the awareness that the physicality is constantly being recreated from its spiritual dimension. But he didn't live that way. He ended up instead of living in the moment, he just lived for the moment. And whenever he thought about a possibility of the future, which he didn't, because he was just about being right now, right here, anytime he talked about a possibility of the future, maybe change, or maybe something different, the only thing you can think about different is that he's going to die. So when he thinks about tomorrow, when he thinks about hoylach, what's going to happen, the only thing he can say is, I'm going to die. That's the one thing he can say about himself. Because he knows life as it is right now. Anything else in his life is considered dead, and considered as going towards death. And this is the inner struggle, or the struggle between Yaakov and Esav. And that's why, when you see that Yitzchak, the father, wants to give a blessing to Esav, which Yaakov dresses in the garments of Esav and receives that blessing. Why does Yitzchak want to give a blessing to Esav? What's the depth? Why does Yitzchak really see? What does Yitzchak see in Esav that we don't see? Because Yitzchak assumes that he has two children, and these two children will be Bnei Yisrael, will be the children of Israel. He was never told that there'll be two nations. The only person that knows that there'll be in fact two nations that will come from Rivka is Rivka, because Rivka goes to prophecy. She goes to a prophet, and the prophet tells her that Shnei goyim b'bitnech, there is in fact two nations within your womb. This is Rivka knows. So Rivka knows that one descendant will become Yaakov, which will receive the blessing from Avram, and then it will go from Avram to Yitzchak, to Yaakov, to the 12 tribes, which will be the beginning and the foundation of Klal Yisrael, the people of Israel. And there'll be another separate nation, which is the tribe, a separate nation, the nation of Esav. Yitzchak doesn't know this. Why Rivka doesn't tell him this prophecy is another conversation. There's a lot of different understandings why. It's possibly that she was afraid to embarrass Yitzchak, that she didn't speak to him or to his father, to her grandfather, to Avram, to her father, or the fact her father-in-law, or she felt maybe that it was too painful. There's very different interpretations why she didn't tell him, but the fact is she didn't tell him. He doesn't know this. So what does he think? He thinks, just like the tribes of Jacob, eventually there was Yisachar and Zvulun, for example, like Chassam Sofer says, Yisachar and Zvulun is one is the scholar and one is the business person. They're both part of the tribes of Israel, but each one has their own purpose. So Yitzchak thinks the same way. I have two sons. One is a man of the field and one is a man of the tent. One is connected to the physical realm. He's asui. He's connected to the physical realm. He's formed. He's physical. Okay, he will be the person that will lead them and be their king, their ruler, the person that will create wealth for the people. Yaakov is the scholar. He's the Ishtam. He'll be their spiritual leader. So we'll divide it. One will become one leader. One part of the blessing will go, one part of the birchas Avram, the blessing of Avram will go to Yaakov. He will receive the spiritual part of the blessing. And one part of the blessing will be for the physicality, and that Esav will receive. And then the descendants of Esav and Yitzchak and Yaakov, which will both be part of Klal Yisrael, part of the people of Israel, will receive both blessings. And that's why when Yitzchak gives Yaakov a blessing, which is very strange, he's giving him the birchas Avram, he's giving him the blessing of Avram, which is the most important blessing, the blessing that Hashem blessed Avram, that from your descendants will arise Klal Yisrael. How come he gives him a blessing and he only talks about physical things? It tells him all different type of physical blessings that he will receive. Why doesn't he bless him with something spiritual? And the answer is because he's giving a physical blessing to the physical son. That's the son that he's empowering to be physically powerful. And how does he start the blessing? Vi yitein. Avav means and, yitein. Not tain, to give, but yitein. Yitein means to continuously give. Yitein v'yachzir v'yitein, to give and continuously give. Because Yitzchak is saying, if you want to be connected to the physical realm, and you're a physical person, you're connected to the physical realm, you want physical and material wealth, that's fine. Just recognize that every single moment there's a complete hischachus, a complete renewal of everything that's physical, and your connection to the physicality, the olam haza, is through the olam haba. That the depth of olam haza, the depth of what's going on in the physical realm, is a revelation and a manifestation of what's going on in the spiritual realm. And the spiritual realm is vibrant and renewed and is completely hischachus at every moment. Don't get stuck in the sun reality, which is the world of predictability, and the world of what's observed, but connect yourself to the moon, to the mystery, to the transcendent. So Yitzchak gives the blessing to Esav, and which in fact it's the blessing to Yaakov. He says, V'yitein, I'm giving you the blessing of physicality, and it'll have the performative idea of the constant overcoming, the constant renewal of creation, which is the letter Yud. Turns out that Yaakov received the blessing that Esav was supposed to receive. And now Yitzchak is in a quandary. Because the physical blessing he was going to give to the physical son, the spiritual blessing he was going to give to the spiritual son. Now he gave the physical blessing to the spiritual son. So what kind of blessing can he give Esav? At this point he realizes that there are going to be two different nations. How does he know this? Because Yitzchak knows that the way his relationship with Hashem is, that whenever there's no das to him, whenever there's things that happen to him, that's always the kavanah, that's always the intention, that's the divine intention. He knows, just like by the Akedah, he was walked to the Akedah, he wasn't asked to go to the Akedah, and he knows that was the intention. The same thing also now. He realizes and says, if I just gave now the physical blessing to the spiritual son, it means that this spiritual son, Yaakov, will begin Klal Yisrael. And that's why Yitzchak does something very interesting. In the beginning of chapter 28, Vayikra Yitzchak al Yaakov, he now calls Yaakov in. And he tells him, Vayivarach Esau, and he blesses him. And he gives him a blessing. And then he says, V'yitnachal es birchas Avram, and Hashem should give you the blessing of Avram to you and your descendants. Now he gives him the full blessing. Yitzchak was just deceived by Yaakov. He was just tricked to giving him the blessing. And now he gives him the full blessing of Avram, because he realizes that now Yaakov is going to be the person that's going to start Klal Yisrael. When Rivka said, in the beginning of the Parsha, when she said that the children, that her stomach, Lama zeh anochi, what do I need this for? So Chazal tell us, it's brought down in different commentaries, that the word zeh is numerically 12. When she says Lama zeh anochi, what do I need this? She lost the possibility to give birth to the 12 tribes. And then it became actually 2. Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Esav. So now that we are on the receiving end of this story, we are the children of Yaakov. We're Bnei Yisrael. How are we supposed to relate to the physical world? What are we supposed to do? And this is the way we have to understand it. The intention of creation is to create a marriage, a harmony between the physical and the spiritual. Between Olam Haza and Olam Haba, between this world and the world to come, between the world that is and the world that's becoming, between being and becoming. This is the yichud, the unification between the sun and the moon. Much like the calendar. The calendar is not a lunar calendar, it's not a solar calendar. It's a calendar that joins the lunar and the solar calendar. It's the unification between the sun and the moon. What does it mean practically? It means like this. When a person is connected to the physical realm, and whatever it is, maybe because it's a job or a business and making money, whatever it is that anchors you into this physical world, and every person has to have some type of anchorage, some type of anchoring into this world. How are we supposed to relate to the physical realm? How are we supposed to relate to material ideas, material wealth? So this is what the Torah is telling us. We have to, no matter what we have in this world, if it's job or it's a money, it's a relationship, whatever we have in this world, we have to constantly recognize that everything that we have in this world is a renewed gift that we receive right this moment. Because the moment we start thinking that what we have is ours and it's guaranteed to be ours, we lose our sense of gratitude. And eventually the things that we have take control over us instead of us being in control over it. When we have things and we say we created it, it's my doing, I did it, then eventually it's a dangerous spiritual slope. The healthy way to relate to physicality is like this. Yes, we have, and maybe you have a lot, and you should have a lot. God should bless everyone should have a lot. You have a lot of material wealth and a lot of physical abundance, yes. But every single moment that I have it, at every single moment that I'm conscious and aware about the things that I have in my life, I recognize that every single thing is a constant renewed gift that I'm getting from Hashem. Nothing is secured in that way. Everything is a renewed gift. Everything comes with hischachas. Not that it's Esav, but it's asui. It's not that it's done, it's formed, and it's solid, and this is what it is, but it's constantly being renewed. There's a constant hischachas, a sense of renewal of everything that I have. And therefore I'm always grateful. And even if I have something and having a perfect job and I know exactly what my job is going to be and I had this job for 30 years, I'm grateful every moment that Hashem is giving me the possibility to make this money and have this job. For every single thing that we have in this world, whether it's children or wealth or health, every single thing that we have in this world, we have to recognize the schachas, the renewed gift that Hashem is giving to us, that the drip from Olam Haba into Olam Haza, from the future world, from the world of spirituality and ruchnius, into the physical realm. And if we don't have ischachas, and if we don't have the sense of renewal of things, it's because we're stuck. And when you're stuck, then we have to paseach es yadecha, we have to open our hands. If we feel stuck and we feel congealed and we feel that the things that we have is taking control over us, because we're not recognizing, we're not grateful for the things that we have, and a sense of ischachus, and a sense of renewal, that every single moment is renewed, then we have to give another person. We have to open our hearts. When you open your hand to another person, you have a psicha, you have a new opening. The giving to another person opens up openness in yourself. When you open up another person, you open up yourself. You open up yourself to the recognition that every single moment is a new ischachas abriya, there's a new recreation, a renewal of creation, and every single moment we're connected to the Creator that's continuously creating and creating and creating. And this is the correct manner through which we receive the blessings of the Birthright in our lives. Good Shabbos.